Good evening. I'm Grace White here in the Channel 11 newsroom along with Beth Alberts from Texas Center for the Missing. Thanks so much for being with us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
We are here to talk about Danielle Sleeper. She is a mom who went missing in 2015. She's a wife, a mother of three. Beth, how did you first hear about Danielle's case?
I actually met her family at the Houston Missing Persons Day at the end of January several years ago out in front of City Hall. We had an event there and they came and told Danielle's story, and I had not heard of them talking before that.
And our full story, we want to tell you at home, airs tonight on Channel 11 at 10 o'clock. We'll have new details about that day in 2015 when Danielle Sleeper disappeared. But Beth, you work with so many families at Texas Center for the Missing. What have these past few years been like for a family like Danielle's?
Well, I think any family that has a person that's their loved one that's missing for so long, it's heartbreaking for them, and it's difficult for them to carry on with a normal life because normal changes when your loved one goes missing, and you have to adjust to a new normal that you'd never wanted and never banked on, and certainly don't want to continue to endure, but you have to.
Yeah, nobody plans for a loved one to go missing.
Right.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It can be frustrating to wait, for years, in this case, for Danielle's family, for answers. And sometimes these are complicated cases that take years to break. Beth, how can people watching on social media, whether they're here in Texas or maybe they're across the country, how can people help Danielle's family?
Well, it's really helpful to continue to share the story and get the information out. The hope is always that something will click and somebody will know something or see something or remember something, or just that in sharing it, it supports the family's search for their loved one and makes them think that that people are out there still thinking of their missing loved one, and that people care.
And how long has Texas Center for the Missing been around? You guys are here in Houston.
We are in Houston, and we help people really all over the place, all over Texas and the country and even the world. But we actually started almost 20 years ago. Next year is our 20th anniversary. February is our 20th anniversary, and we started actually after the tragedy of the loss of a missing child.
A mother, had this vision to start this organization here in Houston. We're so lucky that you're here in our backyard.
Right.
Yeah.
And we just started building our program from scratch back in 1999. And it's grown to what it is today, and just all we do is missing persons, and we're here to help.
Yeah. Well, we want to go ahead and show you some footage of the search teams that have been out over the years. Hundreds of volunteers have stepped up to search for Danielle Sleeper. Again, she went missing in 2015. And we also want to share with you some of the details we've learned about the day she disappeared. So her friends, in this case, last saw Danielle leaving this backyard barbecue with her husband. And he told investigators he last saw Danielle at home, sleeping on the couch, he said, when he left to run errands. So that's kind of what police have had to work with. Of course, when she was reported missing, there were a lot of questions about what happened, and the friend's statements, the husband's statements, and there was a lot of questions about what was missing. Her purse and cell phone were gone, but her car, her clothes, her medication were all left behind. So it's really just a mystery what happened. And almost 5 years ago, it's hard to believe it's been that long.
Right. And those years take a toll on the family and the investigators and those in the community who care about Danielle and her family. It really, it is. I think missing persons to me is the ultimate mystery, and you just so desperately want a solution. And when there's no resolution, when it goes on and on, it's just really hard. It's hard to know what to do with yourself and what to do next.
Texas EquiSearch has been involved in this case. Class Kids, an organization out of Florida, has been involved in this case. Montgomery County Search and Rescue. I mean, this case has touched a lot of different people. But Beth, I wanted you to talk about too, missing adults versus missing children, and rightfully so. I mean, they all need attention, but a lot of times we get the Amber Alerts on our phone. We hear more stories about missing children, but sometimes adults don't get that same attention. Why is that?
Well, it's sort of partly because children are so vulnerable, but also when you talk about missing persons, the bulk of missing persons are children. Fully 75% of missing persons are children.
That's interesting, yeah.
And when a child goes missing, it's a different light, because even if they ran away, they're still vulnerable, they're still underage, they're a minor. Whereas if an adult disappears, if they do it on their own, there's no crime involved. There's really not much you can do about that. It's only under sort of suspicious circumstances, and when somebody leaves behind a family that, and when a lot of the things don't make sense, that's when this draws a lot of interest in a case. But it's different because we're grown-ups. We can sort of look out for ourselves, and so if we go missing, it doesn't have quite the scare part, I guess, of when a child is missing.
And we want to hear from you tonight. If you have questions at home, maybe about Danielle's case, maybe another case, or maybe you have a question for Beth with Texas Center for the Missing, we'd love to hear your questions. We'll go back and respond to them, possibly throughout the live stream, and then also later we'll go back and take a look. So we want to hear from you. That engagement with people, I think, is so important. This is our community, and this is an unsolved case, and a case that we really want to see get solved. Beth, what services are available for families that have missing loved ones?
So we are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, to talk to people about their missing loved one, to make sure that they've done everything that they can do, to liaise with law enforcement if we need to if law enforcement wants to do a search, we can organize that search, assuming there's some, a search area.
So you kind of act as a go-between between families and law enforcement.
Right. We try to help. For most families, they're sort of reinventing the wheel when they have a loved one that goes missing, and we've been doing it for a long time and worked a lot of cases. We work with the law enforcement agencies on a daily basis, and so we can sort of help them ask the questions that they need to ask, and we can be that shoulder to cry on. Sometimes they just need to talk to somebody.
They don't know where to turn.
Yeah, they don't know what to do next, or they don't know where to turn. And in a lot of these cases, there's a lot of stuff the family can do on their own without having to wait for a detective or an investigator, and so we just try to help the family. And we hold special events, Missing in Houston Missing Persons Day, Missing in Harris County Day, to convene families of the missing. We have a quarterly missing persons support group where the families can kind of come together and
talk
support
to other families that have been through that, right?
Yeah, or even are still in that situation, and give each other advice and counsel on what they're going through. And I think it's so important when you're going through something like that you are able to talk to somebody who knows exactly what you're talking about.
Right, so you're not alone.
Absolutely,
right. So
that you're not alone. And I mean, we just try to do anything that we can to support the family, sort of kind of before, during, and after whatever happens with a missing persons case, whatever kind of resources they need, if they need, crime victims compensation, if they need, help with the courts or any of that kind of stuff. We just try to help them navigate that sort of complex system.
Yeah, so again, tonight at 10, we'll be sharing our full story on the disappearance of Danielle Sleeper from Magnolia up in Montgomery County in 2015. As we look at her pictures, we hope that it'll jog people's memories, that they'll call in information that could help get the ball rolling in this case. Beth, why do you think Danielle's case in particular resonates with so many people out there in the community? We've heard from so many people that have shared the story and say they're interested in seeing what we are able to put out there, and they'd like to see this case move forward.
Right. Well, it's a sad fact that when you live in Houston, you're sort of accustomed to seeing these cases on a daily basis of somebody missing. But when you're in a small community like Magnolia, I think a lot of people kind of move out of the city to be safer and to be in a closer,
to get away from the big city and all the crime.
And a closer knit community. And therefore, your neighbors sort of become an extended family. And I think that's why they're so interested, because this is their family. This is these are their neighbors. They want to look out for them and they want to help. And I think that's one of the things that's so great about sharing information via social media or however, is that people really care about these missing persons. And I think it's easy to put yourself in the shoes of that family and think, wow, if this happened to me, what would I want? I would want to be supported.
Right. That's one thing Danielle's mother told me that I'll never forget. She said, "What if it was your child? Tell us what you know." It's such a powerful statement that is something I'll never forget from her interview. What if it was your child? I can't imagine. But one thing we do have tonight is up to a $21,000 reward for information leading to a felony arrest. So again, up to $21,000 from Montgomery County Crime Stoppers. That's incredible. There's been a private donation that's been able to boost that reward, and we're hoping tonight that someone somewhere will call in information, and that can be anonymous, right, Beth?
Right, absolutely. And you know, the thing is that sometimes people don't realize what they know until something triggers their memory. And so getting that information out and letting them know about the reward, even if you're not sure, come forward and say, because you never know what's going to happen that's going to move that investigation forward.
Right.
And that's really all the family is looking for.
So you would say, when in doubt, just call.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, you can call the Crime Stoppers anonymously and leave information, and it might, you know, turn the case. It might give the investigators additional information or a new lead or tip or something. This stuff happens. These cases are solved,
right,
you know, regularly because of that.
Yeah, we believe it can happen. Beth Alberts, Texas Center for the Missing, thank you so much for joining us. Again, we hope you will join us tonight at 10 o'clock for our story on Danielle Sleeper's disappearance. We've talked to investigators, we've talked to family, we've talked to witnesses, and we have new details about the day she disappeared, and we want you to join us. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Grace.
Yes.
Appreciate it.